Level 1, Warehouse Loader. You start before sunrise, in a warehouse that smells nothing like the coffee shop people imagine. There is no soft music here, no warm cup in anyone's hand, no smiling barista drawing foam into the shape of a leaf. There is only the dull hum of fluorescent lights, the scrape of pallets against concrete, the cough of a forklift reversing somewhere behind you, and the dry, dusty smell of burlap sacks filled with green coffee beans. The bags are stacked higher than your head, each one rough against your gloves, each one marked with codes you do not fully understand yet: origin, lot number, weight, destination. To most people, coffee begins when the machine starts dripping in the morning. For you, it begins as weight. It begins in your shoulders, in your lower back, in the sweat under your collar while the air is still cold. Your job is simple on paper: unload, scan, stack, move, check, repeat. But simple does not mean easy. A sack placed in the wrong zone can delay a batch. A damaged bag can spill beans across the floor. A missed label can confuse an entire shipment before anyone realizes it. You learn to read the warehouse like a map: incoming lots near the loading dock, older inventory rotated forward, premium beans kept separate, rejected bags marked and pulled aside. Around you, workers move with quiet efficiency. Nobody gives speeches about global supply chains. Nobody talks about the romance of coffee. They talk about space, timing, forklifts, moisture, inventory, and how fast the next truck needs to be emptied. And as you drag another heavy sack into place, you think about the person who will one day lift a light paper cup to their lips and never know this moment existed. They will taste warmth, bitterness, maybe comfort. They will not taste the dust in your throat or feel the rough fabric burning against your palms. But this is where their morning begins. Not at the cafe counter. Not inside the cup. Here, under warehouse lights, with your body learning the true weight of something the world treats as simple. And then you ask yourself, how many hands touch a cup of coffee before it ever touches someone's mouth? Level 2, Bean Sorting Worker. Now you stand beside a moving belt, and the work becomes smaller, faster, and strangely more exhausting. The sacks you unloaded are opened, the green coffee beans spill forward in a restless stream, and suddenly the whole supply chain shrinks into tiny differences your eyes must catch before they disappear. Broken beans. Black beans. Pale beans. Stones. Twigs. Dust. Anything that does not belong. The belt does not care if you blink. It keeps moving under the hard white lights, carrying thousands of small decisions past your hands every minute. At first, the beans all look almost the same. Greenish, uneven, dry, ordinary. But after an hour, your eyes begin to separate them. One bean is too dark. One is cracked down the middle. One has a strange color that hints at mold or poor drying. One little stone hides between the beans, looking harmless until you imagine what it could do to a grinder, a machine, or a customer's trust. Your fingers move before your thoughts finish. Pick, drop, slide the bad ones aside, keep the good ones moving. Around you, the room has its own rhythm, the belt vibrating, plastic bins knocking together, fans pulling dust from the air, supervisors walking past with clipboards and tired expressions. Nobody watching from outside would call this skilled work. It looks repetitive. It looks easy. But after enough time beside the belt, you understand the truth. Quality is not born in a luxury cafe or a marketing campaign. It begins with people who notice what others would miss. If you let too many bad beans pass, the roasting team pays for it. The tasting room pays for it. The brand pays for it. Maybe the customer never knows exactly what went wrong, only that the coffee tastes flat, bitter, dirty, or strange. And that is the pressure: you are protecting a flavor you have not even tasted yet. You are defending a promise before the product has a name, a package, or a price. By the end of your shift, your eyes burn, your neck feels stiff, and the stream of beans seems to keep moving even when you close your eyes. But you also feel something new. You are no longer just moving coffee. You are deciding what is allowed to become coffee. And if one bad batch slips through because everyone looked away for just a second, who will notice first, the factory, the brand, or the person taking the first sip? Level 3, Roasting Operator. The first thing you feel is heat. It rolls out of the roasting room before you fully step inside, thicker than the warehouse air, sharper than the sorting floor, carrying a smell that finally resembles the coffee people recognize. But even here, it is not soft or comforting yet. It is raw, smoky, grassy, bitter, sweet, and metallic all at once, like the beans are being forced to reveal what they have been hiding. The green coffee you help sort now enters a machine that looks less like kitchen equipment and more like an industrial furnace with a clock attached to it. Your job is to help control time, temperature, airflow, drum speed, cooling, and transfer. At first, you think roasting is just heating beans until they turn brown. Then you watch one batch closely and realize how wrong that is. The beans change by the minute. Pale green becomes yellow. Yellow becomes tan. Tan deepens into brown. The smell shifts from hay to toast, from toast to caramel, from caramel to smoke. Inside the drum, the beans crack with tiny snapping sounds, almost like distant popcorn, and everyone in the room listens because sound can warn you before the screen does. A few degrees too high, and the batch turns harsh. A few seconds too long, and sweetness disappears. Cool too slowly, and the roast keeps developing after it should have stopped. Cool too fast, and the profile may fall short. You stand near the control panel, watching numbers rise and curves move across the monitor, while the senior operator checks color samples under the light with the focus of someone reading a medical chart. There is no room here for the careless rhythm of level 1 or the simple repetition of level 2. This is transformation, and transformation is dangerous because it cannot be undone. Once the beans are roasted, they can never return to green. If you make a mistake, you do not just lose weight in a warehouse or miss a defect on a belt. You can damage thousands of future cups in one decision. As the finished beans pour into the cooling tray, dark and fragrant, a wave of warm air rises into your face. For a second, it smells beautiful. Then you see the batch ticket, the timer, the yield calculation, the production schedule waiting behind it, and you understand that beauty here is measured under pressure. The world thinks coffee becomes valuable when it is served. But you are learning that value is created in narrow windows, in minutes and seconds, while someone watches heat like it could either build a flavor or destroy it. And as the next batch is loaded into the roaster, you wonder, can a few seconds of heat change the value of thousands of mornings? Level 4, Packaging Technician. The roasted beans do not stay beautiful for long unless the package protects them. That is what you learn the moment you move from the hot, smoky roasting room to the packaging line, where the smell is still rich but the pressure feels colder, faster, and more mechanical. Bags slide through the machine in perfect formation. Foil rolls unwind. Valves are pressed into place. Scales measure each portion. Seal bars clamp down with a sharp hiss. Date codes flash onto the surface. Finished bags drop into cartons, and cartons move toward pallets, and pallets move toward trucks. It looks clean from a distance, almost simple, but up close every part of the line can betray you. One weak seal, and oxygen creeps in. One bad valve, and the bag swells or collapses. One wrong code, and an entire shipment becomes impossible to trace. One scale error, and customers either get less than they paid for or the company loses money bag by bag, quietly, thousands of times. Your job is to listen to the machines, watch the seams, check the weights, clear jams, replace film, inspect labels, and react before a small problem becomes a full stop. The sound is constant, plastic clicking, belts sliding, air compressors breathing, cartons thudding, alarms chirping when something falls out of rhythm. You no longer touch coffee as a raw crop or a roasted batch. You touch its final promise. This is the version the customer will see. This is the bag they will pick up from a shelf, scan online, open in a kitchen, pour into a grinder, and judge without ever knowing how many people fought to keep that flavor alive. You notice how strange it is, all the heat, labor, sorting, roasting, and timing can be ruined by something as thin as a failed seal. The product may be excellent, but if the bag leaks, the aroma fades before anyone gets to enjoy it. If the label is wrong, trust breaks before taste has a chance. If the package looks damaged, the customer assumes the coffee inside is damaged too. By the end of your shift, your hands smell like roasted beans and cardboard, and your ears still hear the rhythm of the machine even after it stops. You begin to understand that packaging is not decoration. It is the last wall between freshness and the outside world. And as you hold one finished bag in your hands, warm from the line, you wonder, what good is perfect coffee if the package fails before it reaches the shelf? Level 5, QC Taster. The room is quieter than every place you have worked so far, but somehow the silence makes the pressure feel sharper. No forklifts, no roaring roaster, no packaging alarms, no cartons hitting pallets. Just a long table, small cups arranged in rows, hot water poured over ground coffee, spoons resting beside bowls, and people leaning forward as if the truth is hiding inside steam. This is the quality control tasting room, and at first it feels almost too gentle to belong to the same supply chain. Then you realize what happens here can judge everything that came before it. The warehouse, the sorting belt, the roasting curve, the packaging line, all of it ends in this small cup. Your job is not to drink coffee like a customer. You do not sit back and enjoy it. You smell, break the crust, inhale, taste, spit, compare, and write down what your senses find. Bright acidity. Heavy body. Flat aroma. Burnt edge. Earthy defect. Fermented note. Paper-like aftertaste. At first, the language feels impossible. How can coffee taste like chocolate, citrus, nuts, smoke, flowers, or cardboard? But slowly, your mouth begins to notice what your mind used to ignore. Two cups that look identical are not identical. One feels clean and sweet. One feels dull. One has a sourness that sharpens too quickly. One leaves bitterness sitting on your tongue too long. The senior taster does not raise their voice. They do not need to. A slight pause before a note is written can mean trouble for an entire batch. You learn that consistency is one of the hardest promises in the world. Coffee is natural, grown in soil, shaped by weather, harvested by human hands, shipped across distance, transformed by heat, and still the customer expects the same comforting taste every morning. They do not want excuses about rainfall, storage, roasting drift, or packaging delays. They want the bag they bought today to feel like the bag they loved last month. As you lift another spoonful to your lips, you feel the burden shift from your muscles to your senses. At level 1, coffee was weight. At level 2, it was selection. At level 3, it was heat. At level 4, it was protection. Here, coffee becomes judgment. And when one cup tastes wrong, the question is no longer whether the machine worked. The question is where the promise broke. How do you make something natural taste exactly the same every morning? Level 6, Roast Specialist. Now you are no longer just following the roast. You are shaping it. The same machines are around you, the same heat presses against your face, the same smell of smoke and caramel hangs in the air, but your role has changed. Before, you watched the numbers because someone told you what they should be. Now people look at you when the numbers do not behave. A new shipment arrives from a different origin, and the beans look familiar until they hit the drum. They absorb heat faster. They change color sooner. The first crack comes earlier than expected. The aroma opens too sharply, and suddenly the old profile cannot be trusted. Your job is to adjust the curve before the flavor drifts away from the brand's promise. You study time, temperature, airflow, moisture, density, development ratio, and cooling speed. But behind every technical word is a simple question: will the customer still recognize this cup? A darker roast may hide some defects but erase the delicate notes. A lighter roast may protect brightness but expose every flaw. Too much heat at the beginning can flatten the sweetness. Too little heat near the end can leave the coffee tasting thin and grassy. You are not just avoiding failure now. You are choosing personality. You decide whether the coffee feels bold, smooth, bright, heavy, sweet, smoky, clean, or comforting. The tasting room sends feedback. Production asks for speed. Procurement warns that the next lots may come from another farm, another region, another harvest. Marketing wants the flavor to match the words printed on the bag. And you stand between them all, adjusting a machine that turns agricultural uncertainty into something people expect to be stable. This is where coffee becomes both science and memory. You begin to understand why a customer can open a bag, smell it once, and feel like they are returning to a part of their own life. Morning before work. Late night studying. A quiet kitchen. A conversation that lasted longer than expected. You are designing something people may never think about, but they will feel it if you get it wrong. That is the strange pressure of this level. Your work disappears when it succeeds. Nobody thanks the roast profile when the coffee tastes right. But if the taste changes, even slightly, people notice. They may not know the word for it. They may simply say, "This one feels different." And as you watch another curve rise across the screen, you realize you are not just making coffee darker or lighter. You are engineering a repeatable feeling out of beans that never arrive exactly the same. So the question follows you into every batch: are you making coffee, or are you engineering memory? Level 7, Production Supervisor. By the time you become the production supervisor, coffee is no longer one job in front of you. It is an entire floor moving at once, and every sound now feels like a signal you are supposed to understand. The roaster is running behind schedule. The packaging line is waiting for a batch that has not cooled yet. One operator calls in sick. A pallet of bags is missing from the staging area. The tasting room is holding a lot for review, and distribution wants to know if the morning shipment will still leave on time. You walk through the factory with a radio clipped to your belt, trying to look calm while your mind keeps rearranging people, machines, orders, and risks. At this level, you do not escape the pressure of the lower jobs. You inherit all of them. You remember the weight of the sacks, so you know when the warehouse team is being pushed too hard. You remember the sorting belt, so you know why tired eyes can become quality problems. You remember the roasting room, so you know why rushing a batch can ruin more than a schedule. You remember packaging, so you know a tiny seal issue can turn into a recall. But now the company does not pay you only to understand the work. It pays you to keep the work moving. That is where the conflict begins. A worker asks for more time to clear a machine safely. A manager asks why output is below target. A customer order cannot miss its delivery window. Maintenance says the machine should be stopped before the problem gets worse. Every answer costs something. If you slow down, deadlines suffer. If you push too hard, people suffer. If you ignore a warning, quality suffers. You start to realize that supervision is not about standing above the floor. It is about being trapped in the middle of it. People below you want protection. People above you want numbers. Machines want maintenance. Orders want speed. Coffee wants consistency. And somehow, you are supposed to make all of them agree before the shift ends. As the day stretches on, the factory becomes a living system: heat, belts, valves, labels, forklifts, voices, alarms, and tired human judgment. You solve one problem, and another one appears at the other end of the line. You approve a schedule change, move 2 workers, delay one batch, release another, and call maintenance before a small vibration becomes a breakdown. No customer will ever know this happened. They will only know whether the coffee is on the shelf when they need it. And as you stand near the production board, staring at numbers that do not show exhaustion, hesitation, or sacrifice, you ask yourself, how do you protect people when the schedule only protects deadlines? Level 8, Distribution Manager. When you become the distribution manager, the factory walls no longer feel like the edge of the business. They feel like the starting line. The coffee has been received, sorted, roasted, tested, packed, and stacked, but none of that matters if it sits too long in the wrong warehouse or misses the truck that was supposed to carry it out before dawn. Now your world is pallets, loading bays, route plans, warehouse slots, delivery windows, fuel costs, damaged cartons, inventory reports, and phone calls that always seem to arrive when something is already late. You learn quickly that freshness has a clock attached to it. A perfect roast does not stay perfect forever. Every day in storage softens aroma. Every delay steals a little life from the product. Every wrong shipment sends the right coffee to the wrong place while the correct customer waits with empty shelves. At this level, your pressure is no longer only inside the product. It is inside distance. You watch forklifts load cartons into trucks under pale morning light, while drivers check paperwork and supervisors argue over which pallet should leave first. A grocery chain needs its order before the weekend rush. A cafe distributor is short on espresso blend. An online warehouse has oversold a popular roast. A regional store wants more stock, but the factory cannot produce more just because demand suddenly appears on a screen. You are always balancing what exists against what people expect. Too much inventory, and coffee ages in storage. Too little inventory, and customers see empty shelves. Ship too early, and warehouses clog. Ship too late, and freshness becomes a complaint nobody can fully fix. You begin to understand that distribution is not just movement. It is timing made physical. Every pallet is a promise with a deadline. Every route is a bet against traffic, weather, driver hours, warehouse capacity, and human error. And unlike the roasting room, where you can smell when something changes, logistics often fails silently until the phone rings. A truck breaks down. A barcode was scanned into the wrong system. A pallet is left behind at a crossdock. A shipment arrives, but the receiving team refuses it because one carton is crushed and the paperwork does not match. By afternoon, you are staring at a map of routes and warehouse locations, realizing that the customer thinks freshness means opening a bag and smelling coffee. But for you, freshness means hundreds of small decisions that prevent time from winning. The coffee has survived the farm, the warehouse, the sorting belt, the roaster, the taster, and the packaging line. Now it has to survive distance. And as another truck pulls away from the dock, carrying thousands of cups that do not exist yet, you wonder, what is the value of freshness when every mile takes a little of it away? Level 8, Distribution Manager. When you become the distribution manager, the factory walls no longer feel like the edge of the business. They feel like the starting line. The coffee has been received, sorted, roasted, tested, packed, and stacked, but none of that matters if it sits too long in the wrong warehouse or misses the truck that was supposed to carry it out before dawn. Now your world is pallets, loading bays, route plans, warehouse slots, delivery windows, fuel costs, damaged cartons, inventory reports, and phone calls that always seem to arrive when something is already late. You learn quickly that freshness has a clock attached to it. A perfect roast does not stay perfect forever. Every day in storage softens aroma. Every delay steals a little life from the product. Every wrong shipment sends the right coffee to the wrong place while the correct customer waits with empty shelves. At this level, your pressure is no longer only inside the product. It is inside distance. You watch forklifts load cartons into trucks under pale morning light, while drivers check paperwork and supervisors argue over which pallet should leave first. A grocery chain needs its order before the weekend rush. A cafe distributor is short on espresso blend. An online warehouse has oversold a popular roast. A regional store wants more stock, but the factory cannot produce more just because demand suddenly appears on a screen. You are always balancing what exists against what people expect. Too much inventory, and coffee ages in storage. Too little inventory, and customers see empty shelves. Ship too early, and warehouses clog. Ship too late, and freshness becomes a complaint nobody can fully fix. You begin to understand that distribution is not just movement. It is timing made physical. Every pallet is a promise with a deadline. Every route is a bet against traffic, weather, driver hours, warehouse capacity, and human error. And unlike the roasting room, where you can smell when something changes, logistics often fails silently until the phone rings. A truck breaks down. A barcode was scanned into the wrong system. A pallet is left behind at a crossdock. A shipment arrives, but the receiving team refuses it because one carton is crushed and the paperwork does not match. By afternoon, you are staring at a map of routes and warehouse locations, realizing that the customer thinks freshness means opening a bag and smelling coffee. But for you, freshness means hundreds of small decisions that prevent time from winning. The coffee has survived the farm, the warehouse, the sorting belt, the roaster, the taster, and the packaging line. Now it has to survive distance. And as another truck pulls away from the dock, carrying thousands of cups that do not exist yet, you wonder, what is the value of freshness when every mile takes a little of it away? Level 10, Brand Owner. At level 10, the coffee is no longer in sacks, bins, drums, cups, pallets, or trucks. It is on a screen in front of you, reduced into margins, forecasts, market share, customer behavior, sourcing costs, retail performance, and brand perception. You sit in a quiet office far above the noise of the warehouse floor, and for the first time, the silence feels heavier than the machines. Around the table, people speak in clean business language. Price adjustment. Cost pressure. Premium positioning. Supplier diversification. Consumer loyalty. Growth strategy. Nobody says, the worker lifting the sack. Nobody says, the taster who rejected the batch. Nobody says, the driver waiting at the loading dock before sunrise. At this level, the system becomes polished, abstract, and dangerous because it is easier to make decisions when you cannot smell the dust anymore. You look at the reports. Freight costs are rising. Certain origins are unstable. Customers complain when prices increase, but investors expect growth. Retailers want discounts. Cafes want consistency. Production wants better equipment. Procurement wants flexibility. Marketing wants a story that feels warm, ethical, and human. But the spreadsheet keeps asking one cold question: where does the pressure go? If you raise the price, the customer feels it. If you lower quality, the brand feels it. If you squeeze suppliers, farmers and exporters feel it. If you demand more output, the factory feels it. If you cut costs too deeply, the people at the lower levels pay in ways the report may never show. This is the strange loneliness of ownership. Everyone thinks power means freedom, but here power means every choice becomes someone else's burden. You remember level 1, the rough sack burning against your gloves. You remember level 2, the endless belt of beans passing under tired eyes. You remember level 3, heat turning raw crop into flavor. You remember level 4, the thin seal protecting freshness. You remember level 5, the quiet room where one wrong note could expose a broken promise. You remember level 6, the roast curve that turned uncertainty into memory. You remember level 7, the supervisor caught between people and deadlines. You remember level 8, the trucks fighting distance. You remember level 9, the map of risk stretching across oceans. And now all of it lands on your desk. The world outside still sees a cup of coffee as something small, fast, and ordinary. A few dollars. A few minutes. A habit before work. But you know better now. You know a cup can carry weather, labor, machines, contracts, fatigue, timing, quality, distance, and decisions made by people who never meet the drinker. You lift a cup from the table. It is warm, light, almost weightless. That is what surprises you most. After everything you have seen, after every level of the chain, the final product still fits easily in one hand. And maybe that is why people forget. The system is enormous, but the cup is simple. The labor is hidden, but the taste is immediate. The consequences are spread across the world, but the customer only feels the morning. So when the next pricing decision appears on the agenda, you do not look at it the same way anymore. You can still choose profit. You can still choose growth. You can still make the hard decision. But now you know exactly what that decision touches. After seeing every hand behind the cup, can you still pretend coffee is just a product?